Farhan Mujahid Chak is an associate professor of political science and Gulf studies at Qatar University. He joins us now from Doha. Farhan, thank you very much for your time. Do you believe it's a coincidence that Donald Trump said rogue killers may be responsible for the fate of Jamal Khashoggi after he spoke with King Salman?
Thank you, Adnan. I do not think it's a coincidence. I think this is part of a well-orchestrated plan to try to protect the king and perhaps Mohammed bin Salman from the fallout from what is obviously a gruesome and unfathomable act committed upon an innocent man who could hardly pass as a critic, let alone a dissident.
Yes, it's interesting because he never actually called for regime change to Jamal Khashoggi. All of his statements about the situation in Saudi Arabia were simply that he believed there should be more reform. What about these reports in the US media? How do you think Saudi Arabia, if it's true that Riyadh is going to admit that in fact Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside that consulate, how could Saudi Arabia make such an admission without implicating its own leadership?
I think this is the tricky path that the Turkish authorities were trying to encourage the Saudis to admit to from day one. I believe the Turkish strategy from the beginning was death by 1,000 cuts. They knew right away, immediately, what had happened, and they had presented the Saudi authorities with this ultimatum: admit and protect MBS or take the fallout. And they chose neither. And now, because of this constant leaking of information, audio, video, blood samples from the sewage, it's extensive. The Turks have been very thorough. There is no way for Saudi Arabia to absolve themselves. And what was ridiculous in the beginning, they kept on denying, and blaming the Qatari guy. This has all been shown as a complete sham. It's ridiculous. And this fallout will be very severe no matter what decision. I'm still skeptical whether or not they will actually come out and produce the report. But nonetheless, it seems that they have tentatively, to the intelligence services, agreed.
You talk about the fallout. Is it likely that at some point in the future, however slowly the process moves, that Mohammed bin Salman may be pushed aside? It does seem, does it not, that King Salman is now taking the lead and, at least in this particular case, sidelining the man that he himself has chosen to be his successor, MBS.
Adnan, I think you're absolutely correct. MBS is a huge liability. The reformer who would never be. As a matter of fact, in his own words, he's described himself as a non-reformist. He is unreliable and a loose cannon. And if any evidence is required for that beyond the murder, the kidnapping of President Hariri, the grotesque war in Yemen, if any evidence is needed, then just look at the threats that came out of Saudi Arabia immediately following President Trump's severe punishment quote. The threats coming back where they were this was stabbing Washington itself. So these are serious, this is a serious doubling down, and he's a loose cannon.
Farhan Mujahid Chak, thank you very much indeed for your time. We appreciate it.